You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Tom Radford.
Hi there, how you doing?
Now, Tom Radford. Now, do you drive a Ford?
Dude, uh, I don't drive a Ford. I have driven a Ford. I used to drive a Volvo, but it was a very bad car, and then it blew up. So no, I don't drive a Ford.
Like, do we mean blow up by an explosion or the engine just gave out?
Well, we were going up the motorway, which is a highway, and just the head gasket just went, and there's like a big dent in the bonnet, and up it went, and that was the just steam comes pouring out of the engine, and we just pull over, and that was that. Basically, I've had no luck with cars.
I had someone that had a broken arm, and I asked them, I was like, how'd you break your arm? They're like, oh, airplane accident. So in my mind, I was thinking, oh my God, you got into an airplane accident. And they're like, no, I fell off the airplane. Like as I was trying to get off the airplane, I just fell and landed in the little, I guess the connecting to the airport. I'm like, that's not an airplane actually. He goes, it was an accident and it happened in an airport. I'm like, okay.
What you mean? You fell down the staircase thing, or?
Yeah, when you're getting off the airplane, like when you enter, they have the connecting thing is pushed right up against it. He just tripped walking out. I'm like, all right. I mean, you said airplane accident. I thought you like jumped out and were saving some kids or something.
Sounds like natural selection's got him pegged.
Well, tell me a little bit about yourself and if you want what you do professionally.
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I worked in IT for about 40 years, and hated it. Well, not 40 years. I mean, at the age of 40, I was still working in IT. I was doing that because we had, three kids and stuff. And then my wife got a job in Singapore. So I went out there and I thought, well, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I just blagged my way into a production company as a writer on the basis of some crazy blogs I'd done in the past. And then I realized that this was a real job that I never knew existed. And I was creative director in 3 months because I'm like, this is fantastic. This is a real job. So I did that and then did that for about 3 years. And then I got bored with those guys and set up my own little production company, which was basically just me and a lot of freelancers. And we just did like commercials and a lot of B2B sort of like work with banks and things like that. And that was great. And then so I'm now back in the UK and I'm on what they sort of politely call between positions at the moment. That is to say, not actually working, although I'm basically a freelance creative director.
You're in transition. I get it. I've been there before too, man. I mean, I just literally am getting over that too. I'm heading into a new position and stuff. But how was that change to Singapore, like just out of nowhere? I mean, did you go from the UK to Singapore?
Yeah, we went straight there. It's a bit of a shock. I mean, obviously, temperature-wise was the first thing, because you walk out of the airport, you're like, "Oh my God, what have we done?" Um, but it's a totally different culture. It's very interesting. It's an island full of expats. Expats behave very differently to normal people. It's kind of they're a bit like pirates. I mean, when it comes to doing business and stuff, in Singapore, business consists of going to a bar and you will meet people and they will introduce you to someone, and the next thing you know, you've got a client. That's how it works.
In America, it's practically the same thing. I mean, we have coffee, we get a beer, we go out and do whatever. But it's like there were a thing back in the past, company meetings. I've never actually been to one. I don't think that's really a thing anymore. I feel like everybody just hits themselves up on Snapchat or Instagram, like, "Hey, man, we got a benefit on Friday. We're 15 down in the polls or something." I'm like, okay, I guess that's how we're doing business now. But like sitting down, having a meal, going out to a corporate dinner, put it on the company card. That whole thing. That was a big like successor in your development of your company. But it's really really strange because now people can post stuff on social media and get that same funding, or they can get that same attention from a client. But like you got to take them out, you got to wine them and dine them, man. And depending on where you're from, such as like if you're in the UK, you're probably going out, go get a pint or maybe some tea or something. And next thing you know, like in America, it's coffee or it's strip clubs or it's whatever you want to call it. And it's like, come on, we got to bring business back.
Yeah, I mean, in Singapore, I really did notice it. I mean, it was pretty. Some of these guys, I mean, even well into their 50s and 60s, are pretty hardcore drinkers, and it all used to get a bit messy. But you would find that. See, I've found is that when you go out drinking with people, you know, and that's how you build trust. Because if you're just going to go out for a drink with someone and they say, I'm just going to drink Coke, or I'm just going to drink some water, you're not kind of playing the game. You have to sort of show a little weakness and show a little fallibility, and then I think people sort of like, okay, I've let my guard down a bit. He's let his guard down a bit. We talked some shit, and now I think I can probably get on with this person. You know what I mean? And my wife never seemed to understand that, but I try to explain it to her. But that's how it is.
Well, no, like even with this, like I'm surprised you responded so quickly when doing the podcast. I literally not even 5 minutes ago sent you a message like, you want to be on a podcast? You're like, sure. And like openness from it. You don't see that a whole lot in today's world. I think it's getting a little bit more restrictive just because of the way we've kind of taken actions as people when it comes to like, it seems like everybody's got their guard on high. But everybody also wants to be famous quickly. And like with the business meeting idea, what that pops into my head is the movie Click. I don't know if you've ever seen that with Adam Sandler.
I don't think I have, no.
Well, they were having a business meeting with some Japanese clients, and they had to take them to a nice fancy restaurant. And he has this remote that basically controls the universe. So he just puts subtitles on to hear what the Japanese people are saying. And at the bottom it says, "Why do we have to go to this fancy restaurant? Why can't we just go to a strip club?" So when the Japanese people walk back over, he's like, "What are we doing here? Why don't we go to a TJI Fridays and go maybe hit up a strip club?" And they're like, "Yes," and they're all like screaming and clapping and stuff. It's like that was the thing. They want that connection. Like there is obviously business, but to be successful in a business, to have a partner, to get funding, to do all this, somebody can invest their money into you, but not fully trust you. So you're not going to get that full support. You're just going to be like, I'll give you this, see how much it goes or something. But it's like when you're able to let that guard down, we're able to party, you're able to do so much stuff. And first of all, connect with someone, just like a conversation like me and you, it goes open and free. You don't feel like you're restricting yourself on anything, and you're actually getting to know somebody.
I think that's true. I think that, if you think about your best friendships and stuff, the thing that bonds you all together is your weaknesses and your failings and the things that you do that are naughty. That's what true friendship is about. Anybody that doesn't, truly show their fallibilities to someone is not a true friend, in my opinion. You have to really kind of be like that. Have you been to Japan?
I wish.
It's a crazy, it's a wonderful place. I mean, it's so different to anywhere else I've ever been. But they're a funny lot because they go during the day. It's like super intense. They're very, very, quiet offices, and they all work hard, and they're all kind of like, this real hierarchical structure they've got going on. And then when they go out drinking, it is off the rails. I mean, out of control. But I've been in places seeing these guys, and they get up, and the boss has to do a toast, and someone else has to do a toast, and we're talking like. I mean, in the UK, a shot of whiskey is quite a small thing, and in America, it's quite big. If you imagine a big American shot over and over again, and then they just end up falling asleep face down in the railway station on a Friday night after they've done this, and then of course Monday morning there they are back on the job again. It's a peculiar culture.
Yeah, drinking's different. Like I'm not a big drinker. I mean, I'm 22, but I've never bought an illegal drink of alcohol just because it affected my life in a weird way. But I look at it and I'm like, I get why people really do it. I see the benefit when it comes to people that have severe social anxiety that really need it to kind of loosen up. But it is like the world a lot of times, especially with the way society is and the way like you have to work, all the stresses of life, it does. I do see the benefit of trying to get the day over with, but you'll see so many kids in their 20s that go out partying all the time. It's because they're lost too. Like a lot of them don't know what they want to do. I don't know what I want to do, but I don't feel like drinking to get over it. But it's a bonding experience. Like when we're talking about the guards of conversation too, like it's I come across it every time I get into a podcast because like the first 10 minutes or so, I feel I'll fail if I don't let that guard down. Like if I don't get that guard down. It's not that I'm trying to
Yeah.
attack you, but it's like you're not comfortable. You're sitting there giving me like, okay, yeah, okay. It's like, where's the conversation? Let me get you to relax, let's light some candles, set the mood.
Well, some people find very difficult to be open. I mean, so I've been going through a kind of reinventing my life. Part of what this bite-sized thing I'm doing is all about that stuff. And I've been started writing a blog for 40. Today's 48, 49 days. just about this whole subject, because I find it so strange. Like I was in a marriage which has kind of just come to an end, and you realize sometimes that you spend your whole life pretending to be something that you're not, because that's the way that, particularly my generation, were kind of brought up in UK to be kind of guarded and everything. And I sort of came to the conclusion that if you like that, and you keep your guard up the whole time, and try and keep your cool, you'll never get what you want, but you'll just get what this made up person wants. And so I started writing this blog about it. It's all about broken thinking, and I'm just like, I'm going to be me, and if you don't like it, you can sod off,
Well, with even the writing inspiration, like, what do you particularly like to write about? I mean, are you a big reader, or you just like writing things? Like, I'm a secret poet person. Like, I'll write. I have a poetry book by my computer. Like, I haven't really had the, I guess, passion to want or drive to first of all writing it, because everything in my head right now is kind of depressing. But like, sometimes I'll open up a window, like, there's a fresh rain outside, I'm hearing the rain picker patter across the street or something. I get really, my poems become all about nature, all about the world, or just observations that I make in my everyday life. And I really wanted to write a book or write a short story, but with my ADHD, trying to get me to sit down and write like a 50-page book, unless it's on a computer, it ain't fucking happening.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, in terms of writing, I mean, when I was your age, I used to write poems all the time. Mainly sad things about girls. But I actually also do find it very inspirational to write. Um, and the advice I would give to anybody with writing is just try to write for yourself, and don't try and when you're writing, you sort of start to imagine other people reading it, and I think that skews things up a bit. You just have to write for yourself. I mean, I used to write a blog when I first got to Singapore. I wrote a blog, and because I like writing comedy, I've done stand up and stuff, and I try to write everything really, really funny. And I was like, oh, this is great, And I realized that was all fake. And the one I'm doing now is much more. I'll say things that are kind of, you know, uh, make me feel a little bit uncomfortable. A friend of mine said that my blog is squirmingly uncomfortable to read, because I feel that people just don't say what they feel, and I enjoy it. I've actually had guys come up to me and say, I'm really glad that you wrote that. He said, I feel that, but I could never say that, because guys, particularly from my generation, still have this idea they have to be cool. So I like doing that. I like being honest. I've always been a very open, end up in a bar with someone who's a complete stranger and tell them my entire life story kind of guy. That's just, it's not a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's happened too. I've done that too. It's weird too. Like, you randomly meet somebody, you just start dumping out every single thing, and they'll just sit there like, okay. I'm like, I guess you just were here for that moment, because like, I've never done
Mm,
that to anybody before, but they're just sitting there like, it's all right. Like, I don't care. And with even with the openness too, that's not just with this generation, millennials, all these people that are coming up, like, younger and younger and younger. They're being very, very open. I think that's just the power of social media. But like, I mean, if I go to a therapist or something, there's like, she's like, you don't see a lot of guys in here looking to talk to someone about their problems. I'm like, I don't like talking about my problems. I like helping other people. I like pushing mine down and trying to figure out mine myself. I do a lot of inner reflecting and stuff, and it comes out in my poetry. But even when you're trying to write something too, like you're talking about, writing, you did stand up comedy, or, writing jokes for that for a little while, and then doing your own personal blog. And a lot of it kind of seems a little bit, I guess, would you say off putting to some, or would you say it's just like a little bit kind of awkward?
I think for some, I mean, it's interesting because communication's never really been a problem for me. I've never been a hugely private person. Whereas, and I realize more and more that a lot of people I know, just like you say, do find it very hard to communicate, because we live in a world, particularly as you were saying about social media. I mean, I think that people are open in some ways, but they're also incredibly guarded about themselves, because this people are so concerned about being judged all the time now, and the kind of call out culture and the cancel culture is terrifying to me. And people are like, I don't want someone to think the wrong thing about me, so they'll spend ages sort of choreographing this fake kind of Facebook me, or whatever it is, Instagram me, that they hide behind. But yeah, I don't see. I don't really adhere to that. I try to sort of be myself as much as I can, because for two reasons. One is that may inspire other people, which I hope it will. But also, I need affirmation. I don't have confidence that my mind is the be all and end all, and I need answers. I like to bounce it off other people and see what they say, and I've always done that.
I've done a lot of inner reflecting, and I was saying this to someone that was like, she is a therapist, but she wasn't mine, but she was like, you need to find like your inner problems. I'm like, I know what my inner problems is. Like, I care too much about what other people think of me. That's the thing. Like, I care about wanting all this stuff, but I like to be my authentic self. So I'm conflicted with two things. And she was like, you're basically have already analysis yourself. Like, you don't need any other, information on it, because you seem like you have it figured out. You know what the problem is, and you've been fixing it. I'm like, yeah. Like, those things with ego, whenever someone talks to me and says like, oh, you're wise above your years, I'm like, don't give that to me, because you're inflating my ego. My ego is a problem. I do have it. I may seem very humble, but I have my inner thoughts in my head like, oh, you're good for this. You can do this. You can do that. Yeah, I get it. But like when I'm writing something too, like there are people out there that have a very good way of talking. I like to think I do. I like to think that I'm pretty good at not making dead air. I'm pretty good at keeping a conversation going. I'm pretty good at talking, which is a talent. A lot of people have it. Like my family's radio broadcasters, so that's probably where I get it from.
It's in the
But
blood.
yeah, but like one of my uncles, he's a radio broadcaster. He does the Shorebird Stadium and all that stuff, which is a baseball team. So he's sitting there, the announcer coming up to first base, that whole thing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
his dad was a well renowned author, like published many, many different books, but his dad never spoke. And the only time he could ever express his words is when he put his pen to paper. And, that's everyone's got an ability, everyone's got a message, but people display it in different ways, such as yourself being open. You're saying people are saying stuff like, I would never be able to say that, but you can type it or you can write it and it comes out. It's because, like, for some people, that's the easiest form of communication.
Yeah. I mean, I always used to have a mantra, which was kind of, I can't. I think the worst thing that could ever happen to you is to die misunderstood. So no one knows who you really were. And so, whether it does me good or bad, well, as I was writing this blog, I was saying, I'm glad I've written all this down, because if I go under a bus tomorrow, at least some people will have some idea who I actually was, as opposed to this fake thing that I was pretending to be to protect myself. So, I mean, but maybe I'm lucky in the fact that I am happy to communicate. And it's so interesting what you say about writers. I mean, there are so many writers who you think are the most erudite people, and but they had all sorts of social issues. I mean, like you say, you're ADHD. I'm definitely ADD. I didn't even realize I was diagnosed by a doctor who just said, "You know that, right?" And I was like, "No, I didn't know that," but apparently I am.
That's better than my
Um,
doctors. My doctors and school teachers thought I was mentally challenged. They try to throw me out, like put me in a room and everything. I'm like, I'm not mentally challenged. I just can't sit still. Let me sharpen this pencil again. And I'm sharpening.
yeah, I mean, I'm not. I don't. With me, it's staying on focus is quite difficult. I mean, doing things like stand up when you're ADD. I mean, a lot of those guys are, but sometimes you've got to keep your train of thought, because you're just looking out the window the whole time. And at school, it was a nightmare. I just couldn't focus on anything. But suddenly I'm thinking, what the hell am I talking about? Yeah, but I think where would we start? Where were we going with that
Well,
one?
just like what you just experienced, which
Just to prove the point.
look, this isn't live or anything, but I'm keeping that in there because this is a good point. My mind does the same thing. I'll be talking to someone, and while you're sitting there talking to me, my mind is going off already, going on tangents. Like, I wonder what a Kit Kat would taste like if you broke it in half and then dipped it in different things, like maybe whipped cream or maybe like, just what the hell does that come from? I don't know, but it pops into my head. Like, why does a ladybug have spots on its back? What do they mean? Is that a deeper thing in evolution? Could that be a conspiracy theory? Like, if I was going to write something.
Was it made in a lab?
Exactly. If I was going to write something, I really got interested when I started looking up actual theories and facts, a lot about philosophy and a lot about visuals and things that have happened in the past, because it's helped to predict the future. So, like, I would love to write a conspiracy book. I would love to write something where I can go off, and I get jealous when I see people that can write, like love novels or comedies or, action plays. Or Edgar Allan Poe is one of my favorite writers. I mean, just the amount of talent that goes into words too. Even though every time I picture Edgar Allan Poe, it's John Cusack, because he played in that Edgar Allan Poe movie.
It's interesting. You were asked whether I'm a big reader. I'm not a big reader. Not because I don't. I mean, I'm so envious of people that do read. I can't stay focused on a book. not because it's not a good book, but because if something starts to inspire me, it makes my mind wander. So if I'm enjoying a book, I'm suddenly next time, oh, that's interesting, and I'm staring out the window again. I find it really hard to. Whereas that's where I love movies, because movies pull you in, and you're kind of there the whole time. My kids and my ex-wife and everybody, they read prolifically. All my sisters read prolifically, but I find it really difficult. And yet writing, my sisters say, she's always says to me, I said, why don't you write something, because you've read so much. She says, I can't write because I've read so much. She thinks everything she's going to write is plagiarism. And whereas I used to work in IT, and the job was so stupid that I wrote 5 novels while I was sitting there at the desk. They're all crap, but I wrote, just because I'm bored, I'm going to write a novel. So I'm better at focusing on writing things than I am on reading them.
Well, if you think about it, we're all technically like plagiarists in a way, because every single words and every single thought that we really have is not really our own. It's kind of something we've heard. Like when it comes to politics or something, someone's like, "Oh, but this happened and this happened." It's like, is that your actual view, or is that just the thought of somebody else's that you heard and now you're using it as your own? Like we take bits and pieces from everything in our, it's information processing ever since we're a baby. Like no one really realizes every single word, everything. We're taking it from bits and pieces of stuff we've heard, and we just crafted it into our own unique sentence, but that's technically still plagiarizing. It's like, I don't know how many times my teacher's like, you plagiarized. I'm like, how? I literally talked about a burrito for 5 minutes. I don't know what I don't know where I could have gotten that from. Like I literally talked about the consistency of a hot pocket being hot on the outside, but cold as shit on the inside. I don't know. Like that's a common thing, I guess. But like that whole, like, see, when we start talking about this, we talk about writing, we talk about acting, we talk about photography. All these things I look at as beneficial things to society. We talk about people being able to do them, or being able to like have a certain thing, like, oh, he's a photographer, he's good at taking pictures. Those are needed. There are people out there that can't take a fucking photo. There's the person
That's true.
trying to work a camera or something. They're like, I can't, I'm taking pictures of myself. I'm taking pictures of myself. It's like, all right, turn it around. But when you look at those like writers, people that can craft out a story, there's people out there that wish they had that ability, but don't, but have the ability that other person wants, like as taking photos. You need photos to produce wonderful images and beautiful things for us to stare at to improve our mood. They're mood enhancers. You need stories and books to be able to create knowledge and information and wonderment and all this stuff into our heads. And you need movies and everything for visual inspiration as well.
It's interesting what you say about plagiarism. I mean, people just go so far down the rabbit hole. And when I was a kid, they didn't have all these tools where they could pick out plagiarism and everything. So I'm sure that I was plagiarizing without even realizing it half the time. But everybody's, I mean, I was listening to a great an old recording of John Lennon the other day. And one thing I love about John Lennon, he always talks about where his influences came from. He basically just says we just copied American black music and just turned it into something else. And Mozart was a plagiarist, because plagiarism is kind of a silly word. As long as you're not stealing someone's intellectual property, plagiarism is just growth. You stand on the shoulders of giants, and you go higher and higher. And this is why I used to get annoyed with my sister. I'm like, for goodness sake, you're so frightened of doing something because you think you're going to be copying something, but you might come up with something new, or you might come up with a new way of looking at something, and that's the exciting thing. Also, whenever I've been written something or I've done a joke and someone says, yeah, you nicked that from someone else, I always get quite cross with them. I'm like, no, I never purposely nick anything from anybody. Because for me, I mean, I used to play in a band and be a lead singer in a band. And someone said, why don't you play covers? I'm like, why would I want to play covers? I don't want to hear someone clapping for someone else's song. It doesn't interest me. So plagiarism is a funny thing. You have to accept that it exists, but you don't do it on purpose.
Well, it's the same thing you'll come across with a lot of podcasters or stuff you listen to, where they'll take a bit or something that somebody said, like their own thoughts or their own kind of coming across opinions, and they'll use it in there and act like it's their own without knowing that they did it. It just happens. I've listened to so much Joe Rogan. I've listened to so many podcasts. You can go back through all my episodes and I could tell you a lot of that stuff, that information and stuff I've used when there's a statistical fact or a thing that happens. But I try and quote them. I try and say, this is from this is from that, and try and, because I know I'm using it, but a lot of people do it without even knowing, like somebody, hey, did you know that Tom Holland's actually a girl? And then like, what? Tom Holland's a girl? Yeah, like before you can look it up on the internet. And back in the day when your parents told you something and you ran with it and thought they were right because they're your parents. So you're going around telling everybody, and people are like, that's not true. That's not true. It's like, I know, I heard it. I heard it. I heard it. I heard it. That whole thing. It's like I said, there's so much information. There's everything that's been out here. When we talk about plagiarism, it's impossible not to accidentally use something of somebody's, but it's about turning it and making it into your own. Like when you're writing in something, you could sit there and copy verbatim of what somebody said, but like with folklore books, that's a problem there. They're trying to get historical facts right and also like the whole thing behind it. But, if you're describing Bigfoot, you can't go be like, oh, Bigfoot had wings, Bigfoot had this. It's like you still have to go off the original model.
I love Bigfoot. That's the reason I got into Joe. It's the reason I got into Joe Rogan in the first place. I was looking for stuff about Bigfoot, and I went into some of his, and now then I love UFOs as well, so I went down that road as well, and I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I'm a Bigfoot believer. I can't help it.
Thank God I finally found one. I've been trying to get someone to bring up Bigfoot in a conversation for the longest time, man. Look, I get it. I'm very open-minded as a person. I would love to think that Bigfoot's out there, mostly because have you ever heard of Smokey the Bear?
No,
All right, he's an American icon that's like, only you can prevent forest fires. He's a fucking like bear wearing a Texas Ranger hat or something. Look, I'm telling you, Bigfoot would take a stick and beat that son of a bitch. I can't. I look at that, I'm like, you're copying Bigfoot. It's like you get the knockoff version for like $2 less. But what's your picture of Bigfoot? Because in my mind, I picture a giant, like what Bigfoot looks like, but he's wearing yogi robes, like a monk's outfit, and he has a giant wooden staff, and he's called the protector of the forest.
that's an interesting. Well, that's like Helen the Hunter that we had in folklore. I take the view that it's one of these relic hominids, the Gigantopithecus or whatever it is. It's kind of strange because obviously, it seems to me that the better cameras get, the less photos there are. It's the same with UFOs. But I take the view that not that all these people cannot be full of shit. I mean, there are thousands of people doing this. It's just that everybody wakes up one morning and goes, "Oh, my life's going nowhere. I'm going to pretend I saw Bigfoot." I've seen people that are like some of these interviews of people who just don't want to talk about it. That it scared the hell out of them. I'd like to think that it exists. I love to think that there's still mystery in the world. I don't think it wants anything to do with us. I think I mean, the Pacific Northwest forest is so huge. You wouldn't be able to find it. You wouldn't be able to see it, and you'd never find a body. It would just rot away. I'm pretty convinced that it's there. I don't. I think it's just a big relic hominid that just doesn't. It's very, very hard to pin down.
There's literally a Bigfoot society of people that go out and hunt for Bigfoot every single year, go on giant, like they get funding from the state too, which is a little bit crazy. But I like I said, it's like you're saying, it's possible. Like I looked into cryptozoology, I looked into all these types of things. There's about 9.6 million species still left undiscovered. About 6.4 of them are in the water, and two or three, no, is it? Yeah, 3.2 left discovered on land. But people hear that and they go, that's impossible. I said, no, it's not, because if you look, there's a different detail or something about an insect, about all these things that turn into a whole different species. It's not something dramatic like a rhino turning into a buffalo or something ridiculous like that. It's not an elephant or a giraffe or whatever it is turning from something like a dinosaur. It's like, no, it's literally like a mosquito that evolved into having 4 sets of wings instead of 2. That's a different species. Those slight little differences, whether it's the nose, whether it's like a hummingbird switching from a different type of bird, it's that simple. So when we look at, there is literally, before technology was invented, when you know let's go back to Bigfoot, let's go back to the Yeti, when all this stuff was first coming out. The Yeti was in Malaysia, so far away, without any communication for over here that Bigfoot was a thing. People are describing two of the same exact beings, just with different adaptive abilities, such as one having a different color of fur and being able to survive in colder climates, while another one was adapted to a different area. Is it hard to think at one point there was a species of this race or whatever that was developed like this? I mean, we grew up into something. You surprised with all the information and everything we're discovering now that was wrong for so long? People are still in disbelief of something like that. I think it's definitely possible.
Well, it's easier to disbelieve something. It's easier to be a skeptic than a believer because, again, it's this whole thing about, well, everyone thinks I'm a dick if I believe in something. And yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you think that the mountain gorilla in Tanzania, that was a myth until the last century. everyone thought it was bollocks until someone just actually said, no, it's real. Look, here's one. But then no one believed it was real. And of course, nowadays, we just take them for granted. Of course, it's real. You're talking about something that is going to be hyper adapted to its environment. You go out into the Pacific Northwest forest. I've never been. I'd love to go one day, but you can't even see your own friends that are 10 feet away in those woods. So I completely believe that there is something there. I mean, because also we're in a strange situation. For most of the development of human beings, there were relic hominids around us. There were Neanderthals, there were other ones, the Homo florensis and all those things. They all died out. The last ones died out maybe 5,000 years ago. But so actually this situation where there aren't any Bigfoots is an unusual situation. So they probably are still there. There always have been other branches of the tree that started off with with the apes coming down from the trees. So I just think also, because the problem is that some of the sort of rednecks and stuff associated with the Bigfoot hunter, people are like, oh God, look at these hillbillies going out there. But they're probably just, just because you don't see any black guys going out there doesn't mean that they're all liars. I mean, there's a lot of crackpots.
It's going to be difficult to even try and establish any credibility now when it comes to a photo or something with the amount of technology that's been out now. We can Photoshop so many things. You can't even tell if it's real or not real anymore. Half the time I see someone take a selfie in a mirror, I'm like, that's fucking fake. Like, that's fake. Like all this stuff. It's like, because we know so much now, and like information, if you saw a photo back in the day, it was believable. It was like, oh my God, you caught something, even if someone did figure out how to manipulate it. But now it's like so easy. A kid on their phone could do it. I mean, half the time I can Photoshop something on Snapchat to do a funny picture for Instagram. Like, it's that simple. Like we're living in a world where like now it's going to start. Everybody's going to be a skeptic about everything. Are you really at that diner? I don't know if you are at that diner. Show that you're there. Show your receipt. It's like, what? I've just taken a picture of a burger right now.
I've seen these deep fake things of like politicians, and that scares the shit out of me. I mean, they could make anybody say anything, and you'd believe it, because it's so real now. I mean, we're going into a situation where it's kind of strange as technology goes forwards, and we're actually having to go backwards because we're going to need things on paper, and we're going to actually need to see things face to face because we're not going to believe anything. So technology is going one way, but actually the way it was supposed to be taking us into this wonderful world of information, we trust less and less of what we actually see. I mean, it's quite funny in the UK. I was writing a blog about it this week. This whole coronavirus thing, which seems to have taken the whole world by storm, which appears to just be a bad cold, but whatever. And everyone's like, oh my God, and they're buying it and they're believing it and they're getting behind it. Yet 3 or 4 months ago, everyone was saying that everything online was fake news. Well, make your mind up. How come you believe this and you didn't believe that? It seems crazy to me because, I look at what I'm seeing. I see the numbers. I'm like, this is a bad cold. If I'm 85 years old and I've got, fucked lungs, okay, this is going to kill me. I'm not. So what's going on? What's behind this? Who's benefiting from this? I suddenly get really suspicious and conspiratorial about this. I don't know what's going on. It seems very strange to me. I don't know. I don't know whether it's hitting hard out there.
Even with the coronavirus, like we have a few people that popped up in the States having it. And it's everybody's freaking out. I think it's the amount of attention it's getting because of how quickly it's spreading and how contagious it is. I don't know if you probably are too old to understand this game. No offense, but it's called Pandemic. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Pandemic.
Yeah. So basically, what it is you start this game off. You get to choose either a virus.
Oh yes, I've played it. It's awesome.
Yeah, that game is awesome. That's what's happening with coronavirus. It's just something that's adapting quickly. It's not started by anybody. It popped up. It's just spreading. It's adapting quicker. It's learning how to do with climates. It now just infected a dog. So it's like it's hitting a bunch of different people. But there are some people that are being killed from it. Now it's like we're trying to cut off the contamination. I'm like, it's gonna get we're gonna fix it. We're gonna figure out what it is, but everybody's freaking out. Like there's stores that have to go and buy like extra toilet paper and pallets of toilet paper because they're always out of stock. I'm like, is everybody getting chronic diarrhea? Like what's happening right now? Like I've had that my whole life.
I'm thinking, yeah, what exactly is, you can't hide behind tissue. That's not going to do anything for you. My sister's got a load in. I mean, we've got enough. I could wipe everybody in the neighborhood's ass 3 or 4 times with the amount of paper we've got here. And I don't understand what that's got to do with viruses, but it just seems that one person did it, so everybody's doing it. And this is quite interesting.
It's like when a hurricane comes, food and water. I'm like, fuck that. Let's get the porno mags. We're going to be inside for a while.
Exactly. You know, if you're going to have to, self isolate or whatever it is, yeah, fine. Let's just, let's get a couple of box sets in and, order in some food. But it is crazy because, we've become these sort of what I call selfish indoor communicators that we are on social and stuff. The way that we hide it. You're sitting there in your underpants and telling everyone on Facebook that you're the best guy in the world, and yet when it comes to this kind of thing, we suddenly turn into the raging mob again. It's like a lynch mob. Everyone's running around, and I compared it to that scene in Jaws where the sharks in there and people are running out of the sea and they're just trampling over children and stuff because they want to get out. And I can almost envisage that, if someone says, "Oh, there's someone in our streets got this," they're gonna throw a brick through the window or something. People just suddenly regress into these kind of cavemen when this stuff happens.
Have you ever seen Flash or Black Friday?
No.
You should look up a video of Black Friday on your phone. What's going to happen is you're going to see people like Black Friday is like the day after Thanksgiving when all the
Oh, you mean Black Friday? I thought it was a film. No, I know what. Yeah, no, I've seen some videos of
yeah
these people going
people
into the
step
shops.
on
Yeah, yeah.
each other's throats for a flat screen TV. That's the same thing. When a zombie apocalypse happens, the first thing I'm not doing is I'm not going to the store, only because everybody's going to be killing each other, trying to get whatever this, trying to trample each other. Like people are going to be dying from that and all this type of stuff. I'm like, let that all clear out, get it done with it, and then you go pick off what's left or whatever. Because I'm telling you, there's always that one person in the group during a zombie apocalypse that's buying the dumb shit, and that's me. Like there's one dude that's like grabbing rubbers and grabbing like porno mags and airsoft guns, and you're like, what? We don't need that. And you're like, yeah, we do. We're going to be locked inside for a while. I want to have fun. Like, you don't understand. We can use these condoms as armor. It's like, what? But I have a specific story. There was Hurricane Sandy. I don't know if it affected you. This was like a few years
I
ago.
think we tend to get the tail end of them when they come back the other way, but not as bad as you guys.
So my mom gave me like, I think like $10 to go get a thing of water and to go get like some like chips or something soft, like so everyone in the family can eat, like like my grandma was with us. She was like in her 70s, so she's like, get something that she can eat as well, but also get water because we need water. I came back with 2 liters of Mountain Dew because everybody was fighting over the water. I was like 16. You don't do that to a 16-year-old. Like you don't give them money and expect like to get anything good of what you want. I'm gonna get what I want. So I walk in, I get the 2 liters of Mountain Dew and stuff because everyone's fighting over water and getting the perishable foods. I just picked up a bunch of Doritos and stuff and came back. And she's like, where's the water and stuff? I'm like, I got this. She's like, you expect your grandmom to eat spicy nacho Doritos? I'm like, she don't have to have any if she doesn't want any. Like, it's that whole thing, you know what I mean? But we have this mentality as people. Like, we had a deep inherent skill and trait in us all at one point in our history, way back in the day before technology or before society advanced so much, is we had an inherent, I guess, care for people. We really did love each other. We really did want to help because helping each other was a way of survival. The only time you really ever see these moments anymore is in a critical state in our world, like coronavirus. If this got really, really, really super big where the whole world's losing, like, there's a small number of the population left, you're going to see people come together. It's the same thing you see in a zombie apocalypse. People drop their shit and they create a group or they do something, and then you end up coming across another group or something. You end up having conflict. But most of the time, it's like we need to drop our differences and we need to look at there's a bigger problem. There's a zombie eating my sister right now. We need to focus on trying to be a community again. That's how it was back in the day in hunter and gatherer days. But food's gotten so easy to get, everything. There's not really a problem anymore. And when there's not a problem in the world anymore, such as trying to climb to the next advancement, people start to fight. We get bored. We want to do something. We want to start up a Twitter war.
That's absolutely it. I mean, I when I look at all the kind of outrage culture on social media and stuff, and I feel it's like it's people like, I need some outrage in my life. I need something to be frightened of. I haven't got a war to fight. I haven't got some terrible thing going on. So I have to be outraged about something. I have to be offended about something because I think it's almost like it's human nature. It kind of keeps us going. We've got nothing to fear. What's the point in having all these faculties that we've got? And when something like this comes along, it's like, yes, we've got something we can all be upset about. And of course, the media is just dining out on this.
Yeah, that's
You know,
why.
I
Look,
think
this is why you see exactly what you do. No offense, I'm not lashing out at you or anything, but with the food review or the food kind of pictures, People are just doing that because they're tired of looking at bullshit on the media. That's what all it is. Whenever you turn on the TV, it's somebody complaining about something. We've Back in the day, there was a really good show, Man versus Food. People overcoming challenges. You were rooting for the person. People doing the show Hot Ones. People doing, Hell's Kitchen. They like seeing that person get yelled at, but then they see him get better. We have that thing inside of us that wants to see amazing things, but with food reviewing, that's why people are getting interested in it, because they're just tired of seeing the same bullshit on the TV anymore. It's all Trump, it's all this, it's all political, everything's a freaking lashing out or shit talking. It's like, fuck that. I want to see a burger. And then you probably see it yourself. You put up a picture of an amazing food or something. Some dude comments, well, that's not vegan, bro. That's not keto, bro. It's like, oh my God, can you just enjoy the picture or move it along?
Dude, I'm just waiting for the first person to say that, and I'm just going to go back because I mean, this is the reason that we did bite size in the first place, is because my mate and I in Singapore, because we started off over there with my mate in Singapore.
Well, plug your
We just
show first. Plug your show.
yeah, we have a thing called the Bite Size Review, and we're at the Bite Size Review on Instagram, and we just do short, kind of funny, kind of irreverent little food reviews of restaurants and stuff, generally around London. I've done them in Singapore, and hopefully, if this virus dies down, we'll do them in other countries as well. And the idea was that we looked at food reviews online, and they were long and they were boring, and there was lots and lots of B-roll, and they were taking ages to get to the point, and it was all very highbrow. Oh, the food is everything. And also, when I look on Instagram, and not to knock them down, because there's some great photography and some great people on Instagram, but most people are just taking static photographs of food. And I take the view that if I go out to eat, I don't just go out because of the food. I go out to have a good, just like this podcast, I go out to have a good conversation with a friend and a good laugh, and enjoy the place and enjoy the food. So we try and bring in the fact this is a great place, this is a great location, we're having a real laugh, we're taking the piss out of each other, and also the food's good too. So it's the whole experience, and I'll try to get it down into, the maximum of about 2.5 minutes, because also people just haven't got time to sit through
Damn,
some great long thing. Yeah.
cranking it down to 2.5 minutes. That's got to be hard as hell, man.
Well, what I discovered, because I edit these myself, I just cut all the bullshit out. I literally, it's jump cut. Literally one halfway through a sentence, I can jump from one to another, because for me, because I've got, without blowing my own trumpet, I have a bit of comedy timing, because I've always enjoyed writing comedy and thinking in a comedic sort of way. So I build it. When we've done the show, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I know where the jokes were, and I know where the laughs were, and I put it all together so that it builds, pace, and so that you can have, right, they'll say something sensible out of the food, and then he's just going to say something completely off the wall. I mean, we did one this week when we were talking. We had a guest on there, and she was talking about the mushrooms, going how good they were, and I said, yeah, and I said, and also mushrooms can talk to trees, and they are the internet for trees, that, and then just cut straight off to something else, just throw it in there, and it mixes it all up, and people are like, what the fuck did he just say?
Yeah, it's
then,
like doing a best of moment. So I think that's definitely what you got to do, especially if you're doing something like that. Like that's really what you have to do with anything with popularity on social media. That's why a lot of podcasters and stuff, they'll just cut up a full conversation and just find the best moments of it. I can do that with every single one of my podcasts, but I'm like, that you miss out the fun, you miss out the buildup, you miss up all that stuff. Like what made restaurants so much fucking fun was the bullshit, the atmosphere of it. But everyone's like, oh, I only judge the food, I only do this. It's like, what about the whole love of the thing? What about like you go when you're having a drink with your mates, or you're having, like some food with your family? Like that's the fun shit, all the experiences. Like remember that time, like recounting old stories, laughing over whatever. Like for me, a good restaurant experience, or like maybe the best thing in my mind, what I would typically call heaven, sitting at a fucking diner with like a stack of chocolate chip pancakes. Maybe my grandparents across from me. When I was a little kid, we went to IHOP. Like, don't get the chocolate chip pancakes. You don't need all that. And I'm like, triple stack it, bro. Like double chocolate chip pancakes. I want all that stuff. She's like, you're gonna give yourself diabetes. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm 12. Let's do this thing. Like those were amazing moments. I always remember those. And now that I'm older, I don't have those moments anymore, because it's just not a thing anymore. Going out to eat's a little bit more difficult. But like going out on my birthday, I'm born on New Year's Eve. So we went to dinner
oh, so was
usually.
I.
Really?
Well, I've got a funny story about that. You do yours, and I'll tell you
Well, yeah,
about my birthday.
I'm curious now. You gotta tell me.
Okay, so all my childhood, my birthday was on New Year's Eve, and one day I found my birth certificate, and it said December 30th. And I told my mother as a kid, and she said, no, it was New Year's Eve. So anyway, obviously it was fine until later in life it caused problems with things like driving licenses and passports. Somehow I managed to get away with it. And then I think I was 39, and my wife was going crazy because the passport people were saying, when you're saying one birthday and you're saying another, make your mind up. And I said to my mother, I was 39, I said, look, just finally, you said it was New Year's Eve. Which one was it? And she said, I'm telling you, it was nearly midnight. I'm like, well, that's the day before. So I've now had to change my birthday at the age of 39 to the 30th of December. So, which is kind of not that difficult, but it was kind of a weird sometimes. So I started off with one birthday, and now I have another.
There's a famous comedian, I forgot his name, but it was on an episode of Ryan Sickler's podcast. But they were talking about, he ended up finding out later that he was actually 2 years younger than what he originally thought, because he was adopted. So he didn't, nobody knew his birthday. So they just said a day, and he ended up finding out he was 2 years younger. So he was like, holy shit. So like, I'm not 50, I'm actually 48. Like, it's just like he got an extra 2 years of life in his head. And it's like, see, but that's better though, because you were just you were off by a day. Imagine being off by like 10 years or something. Like, why do I have a beard? You're actually 10 years older.
Exactly. Yeah.
But when I was saying about the
Where's my
restaurant thing, like
libido gone? What's going on?
with the restaurant thing though, but my birthday being on New Year's Eve, that makes it a bitch to go out and eat. So you need to go out early in the day. So I remember we went to Outback. I don't know if you've ever heard of Outback Steakhouse.
I think I have, yeah.
Well, we went to go there, and it's packed. It's around like 7 o'clock at night. Bars are filled up and everything. I'm probably like 17 years old. My grandparents like, let's do this. And I remember we asked, like, can we get a table for three? And the woman's like, it's a 2.5 hour wait. I looked at my grandma and I was like,
Ooh.
fuck that. I'll take a McDonald's cheeseburger or something. And we ended up walking out, going to Applebee's, and Applebee's is like, it's going to be about 30-minute wait. And then we're like, okay, that's fine. So we went to go sit down, and they called us right up, and we sat down and had dinner. But I remember my grandma was like, I'm never fucking taking you out on your birthday again. We're going to do it the day before, or we're not doing it at all. And it makes sense, but it was that whole experience, that whole like trying to find a place for like an hour and a half, and then finally getting to a place, then like still feeling like we had to wait. But then once we sat down, like, laughing over freaking potato skins with bacon in them. Like, oh my God, it was amazing. All those experiences just flooding back, enjoying, recounting with your family again. And it's the same thing with a home meal. A lot of people just go out now and they sit on their phone, take pictures of their food, and don't really get to enjoy every aspect of it. It's definitely, you can take a picture of it because the art of plating is a thing, and it is cool to, get a nice view of something. It's a photography, but at the same time, it's like you're missing out on a lot of the experience, which I think your videos really capture. They show the best moments. They show the camaraderie of going out to a restaurant.
Totally. I mean, I agree with what you say about podcasts. I mean, Rogan and what you're doing, and I'm sure there are other people doing. I love this idea of having a whole conversation, because like this year I started running again because I'm decided I've got to get myself fit. Um, and and I listen to podcasts. So I just listen to Rogan or something like that, and it's just this conversation going on in the background, and it's nice, and there's no bullshit, there's no hiding, there's no editing. It is real. And I would, I'd love to do that for a food review, but I don't think we're quite at that stage yet with social. But what I try to do is just, if I was running a restaurant, I want people to say they came to my restaurant, they had a fucking good time, they had a laugh, and they really had a good time with their friends, and they enjoyed the food. And so whenever I'm approaching a restaurant, I say, look, we're just going to try and point out that we had a great time in your restaurant, because that surely that's just as important as what they're cooking. I mean, people spend a lot of time decorating their places, and they pick their location. It's not just about the food, and so we try and convey that. But also, I also like the fact that I say to them, look, I'm not just going to sit here and be all scientific. If I think of something funny to say, this is my show, and I'm just going to put it in there because I have a sort of an odd sense of humor, and I like to sort of throw those kind of things in there. And I mean, people seem to be liking it. I mean, it's early days yet, but and we won't get any money or anything. But it's
it's just like for podcasting too. Like you'll find people that do movie podcasts, that do all these sports podcasts, that do whatever that are like 20-minute segments and stuff. I could just as easy make a really funny podcast with just random jokes and humor and whatever all into a 20-minute thing. It would be way easier on me. But I don't want to do that because I like the natural flow of conversation. I like, I'm a gym goer. So when I'm listening to a podcast, a Joe Rogan podcast or something, I like something that's extremely long because I work out for the length of that podcast. If something's like 30 minutes, I'm like, I can't just work out 30 minutes. Like I need something that's going to get me through my 2 hours or something. Like, come on. Like I want to crank something out, but I also want to hear, get information in the background. Someone's like, you're tossing me out your thoughts, your opinions, your stories, your experiences. I'm doing the same with you, even though, you obviously have more than me. It's just like, it doesn't matter. It's like a give and take here. We're both throwing out ideas and just bantering back and forth. We never even contacted each other before today, like not even before 10 minutes or whatever, almost an hour ago. Like it's so easy to have that conversation. It's like when you pull up to a bar and now you'll see people just awkwardly ignore each other and try and not, get the awkward, like, oh, what's up, man? And then just not talk to them the whole time. You know how uncomfortable that is? It's like sitting in a massage or something and the woman's massaging you and you're not sparking up a chat. When I go to my doctor's and he's whatever checking me out and everything, I strike up conversation because it's awkward as hell just having him touch you and like give you all these vital signs, like open up your mouth. I'm like, what are you gonna do? He's like, I got to stick the thermometer in there. I'm like, is that all? And he goes, what are you saying? And I think you're just looking at some dude cracking jokes the whole time. He laughs and everything. It's an experience because we're all living this life together. And, any moment or interaction with someone shouldn't be painful. Like we're all acting like it is. Like, I don't know how many times people, they do self checkout. I do self checkout just because even a conversation with somebody a lot of the times is just stress. It's just someone dumping themselves out onto you. It's like, let's just talk about the weather. Let's just talk
It's
about birds.
it's funny because I mean I've been to the States a couple of times and I found I don't know whether maybe it's because I've got an English accent or whatever, but American people find it very easy to talk to me and in bars and stuff, and I found that very refreshing to be honest. I mean, even in places like New York, which as America goes, is supposed to be quite unsociable, but even there I found people pretty approachable. In the UK, if someone talks to you on an underground, like on the underground train, it's like they've assaulted you. It's like what's going on, and it's like that kind of personal space thing, where the sort of like the sort of animal inside you suddenly wakes up. So you're too close to me. You're talking, and yet you say. I don't know you from Adam, and yet we can just talk normally. And I suspect there's thousands of people out there that would be just as happy to do that. But it's just not the done thing, and it's a shame because they think about all the great conversations and connections that get missed out because of this sort of idea that you're some sort of social pariah if you talk to a stranger. And I think podcasting is actually breaking down those barriers in a pretty positive way, which is great. Because it's, I mean, it also comes from like when you're a kid and you don't want to talk to a girl because you just get too upset about it and something. I know people that have never had that problem at all. They would just walk into a bar, first girl they saw, they straight over there, whatever, and they were like great.
Well, we,
So
we saw this on like Xbox or PlayStation. People talking shit on Xbox Live, saying like, "Oh, your mom's this, your mom's that." It's like, "Oh, you suck," this type of stuff, and it was like so conflicting. It's the same thing like that now with just talking to people in general. Someone tosses out something that you like. Before it was like, "What is the two things you never talk about at a dinner table?" Was religion and politics. Now it's like everybody's telling you "Oh, I'm a Democrat. My name's Jerry." It's like, did you just introduce yourself as a Democrat and then say your name? Like now people are doing the same thing with the vegan and the keto and all this. Oh, I'm vegan. Oh, I'm keto. Oh, I'm this. And it's like, who gives a shit? Really? Like I don't know. I get upset by the people that are like vegan lifestyle, vegan this, vegan life, vegan all that. I don't have anything against veganism, but just fucking do it. Don't need to promote it everywhere. Don't need to force people to your views and hate on other people. It's like some people like good food. Some people like, and that's saying all vegan food is bad food. It's just, but some people like a burger. Some people like all that type of stuff. I don't really eat that stuff, but I'm pretty sure you probably come across an amazing meal. It's probably most likely not vegan.
yeah, I mean, the problem is that there's social currency in it, isn't there? It's like, oh, look at me. I mean, there's the running joke. How do you know someone's a vegan? Well, they'll tell you. Um, and they will. And as I say, I've got nothing against vegans. As you say, go for your life. And this is the thing about people. You get the wrong pronouns for people's sexuality and stuff. I'm like, I don't care. Do what you like. Do anything to anything, as long as you're not hurting anybody. I don't care. Dress how you like. Cut your organs off. Whatever it is that gets you through the night. I don't care. I'm not going to judge you, but I'm also not going to basically change my lifestyle around that so that I've got to basically tiptoe on eggshells every time you're in the fucking room. If you've made that choice, that's your choice. Um, but it's not like I'm going around going, well, I'm a heterosexual, and you better fucking respect that. I mean, it's what I do, in that way, it's nothing to do with anybody. I'm not going to bug. I don't wear a badge saying that's what I do. It's like if I'm eating a burger, I don't have to say sorry to vegans because I eat a burger any more than a vegan has to give me shit if I do it. They eat that, I eat this. Who cares? Live and let live. Um, yeah, sorry,
Well,
rant over.
it's the same thing like you were talking about before with the conflict thing. We need conflict in our everyday life. That's why reality television was so popular. I've said that over and over again. It's just because when you don't have it in your everyday life, you look to be outraged. You look for something. You look for this. It's what happens when food becomes so damn accessible and you don't have to do anything anymore. When you become lazy, when you become so comfortable that everything's super, super easy or you're just used to it, you look for that difference and you try and find that difference at a bar. It's why when you get drunk, you'll fight somebody, you'll get on edge, you're completely different, you're open. It's because now people are looking for conflict. And it's like we can easily change that if we just start, instead of trying to spark up an argument, let's spark up a conversation. You're going to get a way better feeling from it. You're going to feel way better and you're probably not going to wake up with a black eye.
Yeah, it's true. And a conversation is so much less polarized. I mean, society is becoming ridiculously polarized at the moment. You are either at this or you're at that. I mean, obviously in America, you've got two-party politics. It seems in the UK now that we're pretty much moving into a two-party politics situation because the other ones just don't seem to be able to do anything. And I'm not a this or a that. Life is a grey area. That's the whole point of it. Imagine if people who were like trying to, develop the vaccine for coronavirus thought that way. They'd never get anywhere. Science is about exploring all the different possibilities, and that's how we have the technology, and that's how we have the medicine. This idea that the kids are being fed this bullshit where they have to just be a this or be a that. If you don't call out someone on this, then you're with them. It's like, when did this happen? I mean, I really fear. I mean, I've got 3 kids, and I really fear for the world they're going into. And I always say to them, just take a situation on its merits. Don't be too judgmental. Don't jump on a bandwagon because it's socially acceptable. Always, I mean, this whole okay boomer thing drives me crazy. I'm like, it's all very well to point the finger at people about, the environment and stuff. But, in the 1980s, we weren't thinking about those things. In the 1970s, we weren't thinking about this. You can't just.
We had bigger things at hand. We were dealing with war and all this stuff like this when,
Well,
a
these are the
lot.
people that gave us the 60s. These are the people that gave us the sexual revolution. These are the people that gave us the pill and the rock and roll. They took us out of that stale plastic sort of 1950s culture, and they made people free thinking and all this stuff. And now they're getting blamed for destroying the world. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's a different generation. It's a different time. You
That's
can't
why,
just.
that's why food reviewing and all that type of stuff is becoming popular because we're all trying just to avoid our attention onto something else. It's literally, this has been the fastest growing trending thing ever, only because it's captured social media in such a unique way with photography, such as at the beginning it was sunsets, sunrises, all those amazing things. Now this is just different places and location. It's literally like giving information out there. Literally like food critics, anybody could be a food reviewer or food critic now, but like the way you do yours differently and the way styles you've gone across so much. This has probably sparked your inspiration a whole lot because you probably traveled to all these different places first of all and it got to
Yeah,
experience so many different things.
yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, and I'm not a natural traveler. I mean, really, it was about my to her credit, actually, my ex-wife was the one that got me into traveling around. And I was saying in a blog the other day, I don't care about holidays. I sort of I realize I'm going on holiday. I'm like, oh great, let's just do it. I don't like planning or anything. But when you go to another culture, it does make you think. Even if it makes you uncomfortable or something, it does make you think, and it does broaden your horizons a lot. I mean, I
It's
was
the
a.
reason I want to travel, man. I'm telling you.
You
I've
should.
talked to so many people like there's a baker, he owns the Bagel Master in New York. And I was talking to Vadim on a podcast and literally he's like created a food for me, like a bagel idea I had. I'm like, I want to go experience that. Like shit, I want to go and travel. I've talked to so many people from around the world and everything. I'm like, I would love to just go and literally check out everybody's thing because I'm pro people. I'm a pro supporter. That's why I wanted you to plug your thing. That's why I wanted all that stuff, because I like to see people, get something. I like to, even if it's just a conversation that we're having, I benefit so much from that. And you do too. It's a positive stimulus you get from it. Like I think a lot of people, like, they want to be angry, but I feel like it's just because that's the response that's the easiest to get, rather than try and build up that conversation or that aspect to really get that positive stimulus. But the positive stimulus, it's harder to get because it's worth so much more.
Yeah, it's easy to be angry because you know that you've already got a group of people that will back you up. How can I make I'm nobody. How can I make myself popular? Oh, I know. I'll just get on the bandwagon with that and then shout out something at somebody. I mean, I hear these stories about. I mean, I'm sure they're like one-offs. There was stuff they were talking about on Rogan about these professors getting kicked out of universities because they wave their arms around and it's aggressive because they're just gesticulating. And I think, oh my God, what is the world coming to? And there is this need people seem to have, as you say. I don't know if it's necessarily a need for aggression, but
It's
it's
entitlement.
just it's entitlement. It's also something that it makes you feel alive. It's like going on a roller coaster. It scares the shit out of you. Well, I feel alive. And it's the same thing about fear. I think it's kind of like a drug when you get cross and you get angry. I mean, you ever get those times when you like hit your foot or something and you just get a stick and you bang it on the floor and you shout and then you feel better. It's like there is actually kind of a serotonin hit that comes from rage and outrage. But I think that traveling would be really good for you because I mean it scares the crap out of me when I hear about how few people in America have got passports. And
I
I
don't
think
even have a passport, bro.
yeah, but it's easier to get one, and you will benefit so much. I mean, when I went to university, I didn't know many Americans then, and I met a bunch of guys that came over to do a year. I was at Glasgow University in Scotland, and they were some of the nicest guys I ever met, and I'm still friends with them. And but to them, it was great. They were opening my eyes to their culture. I got into all these bands like the Pixies and They Might Be Giants, so I'd never even heard of, which was great. But for me, I was showing them around my country, and they were like laughing their heads off at the names of some of the things in the shops because it was kind of like a swear word in America, because we did, and and it was great. And they went home so much better for it, and I was so much better for the fact that I'd met them, and I understood American culture so much better than just what I saw on television.
But
Which was and
just like our conversation that I do with this podcast, we all have something to offer each other. We all have something that is there, information. We all have this type of thing that, sparking an interest. I might toss out a band. I might toss out, a food. You might toss out a food. You might toss out like all these type of things that we can take and we can enhance our own life by understanding more and more and more. People look at books as the only source of information, but, I can't read books, much like yourself. You said you can't really read a book. Conversation is the easiest book for me because you're basically telling me a biography or your thoughts or your opinions and your views on things, where I get to look and keep it in my mind, listen to that perspective. You're seeing the world through somebody else's eyes, practically. You're hearing the whole tale. That's information that enhances your own life. Like I've said before, people saying, giving me the credit like you're wise above your years. I can get very deep, but that's in no benefit of my own because I pulled everything out of from when I first started podcasting and all the people I've had on. They're all different people from all over, and I've heard so much experiences and life stories, and it has become a lot, and it cause a little bit of stress, mostly because you know so much more. That's why they say like dumb people are like the most ignorant to life or whatever. They're just happy all the time. That's
I
true.
envy them. I
Yeah.
envy them. No, it is true, and you get so much. I mean, kind of as I was saying before, the way that I'm open about myself and the fact that I like to to bounce my own fears and things off other people, because why is my opinion about myself always the right one? And I listen to other people, and it's the same thing in a way. I mean, when you listen to, like, let's say that you'll listen to what I'm saying, and you may walk away thinking, "Oh, I hadn't thought about that," or maybe that's relevant to me, and I hadn't seen it from that perspective, and I'll probably take the same thing away as well. And it is because we are, we're pack animals. We're supposed to do this kind of stuff. It's only technology and politics and things which is pushing us into these silos. Naturally speaking, we are people that this is what tribal people do today. At the end of the day, they sit down, they have a conversation, they chew the fat, and that's where the stories come from, and that's where the culture comes from, and it's comforting. Like a conversation like this is great. It's particularly talking to someone in America at a time like this when tensions are very high politically and all sorts of other things. I can unburden myself by talking to an American and hear what you have to say about what I think. You might just say, fuck, what the fuck do you know? You're in England. None of this stuff, but but actually, it turns out there's a lot of synergy there.
You have
It
the
is a
most
good way.
information to offer because of that accent. Like you're saying, it's just calming. I want to drink like a tea or I want to calm down and relax. Like you could soothe me to sleep, man.
Yeah, yeah, no. Actually, well, I think the same with American accents. So when I watch American stand-ups, it's almost like you've got just such great phrases for everything. You're saying stuff which to you is just like normal, and it just has me in stitches. It's just, just because there's so many great phrases and stuff, and that's great.
Well,
I love the.
we talk about plagiarism, but I want to bring up this comedy thing real quick. What do you think about like we're talking about people being offended and being attacked? Have you noticed that every single comedy special now they're just self-deprecating jokes? Like they're just people that are really like, oh well, I couldn't get it up last night or I couldn't do it. They're just making fun of themselves, and I think it's because of how reactive people are to if you crack a joke on a certain person, if you crack a joke on a certain thing that is kind of true, but it's just meant to be comedy. People take it too far and feel like they're offended. So now the comedian can only make fun of himself. And like, it's the only thing that's what they call safe comedy now. Like, I think Dave Chappelle's special, Sticks and Stones, was attack on everything, hate culture. He literally called the audience dumb because we're being offended just to be offended. We're not even enjoying a comedy show anymore. You're paying for a ticket, but you're just waiting for something to get up and spark a cry or try and get your minute of fame. It's like, it ruins it. I don't want to sit there and hear a comedian make fun of himself the whole time. Make fun of me. I don't care. Just do something to get off the whole thing of this safety. Everyone looks like they're walking around with like two broken arms.
It's interesting. I mean, obviously, British humor and American humor differ in the way that we tend to be very self-deprecating. That's not because we're trying to avoid. We'll take the piss out of anybody just like anyone else, but we tend to start off as the loser. That's kind of how the British comedian tends to be positioned. American comedians tend to be like the wisecracking sort of guy. But I totally take your point. I mean, when I was at university, one of the American guys had a Sam Kinison tape, and we played that thing till it broke. It was just I used to wet myself laughing. I mean, he was really outrageous. Some
What's
of
your
the stuff he
favorite
said.
joke by Sam Kinison?
I'm going to get myself into trouble here, aren't I? The one, well, it's the one that Joe always talks about. The one with the, why don't you live where the food is?
Oh yeah, the Africa one where he's talking about like,
And he's
you
like, and
see
the guy
what's
with
here? It's fucking
his little
sand.
Hachi
You know
there,
it's gonna grow here 10 years from now. Fucking sand. Get your shit and let's go. I love that.
and they've got the little kid in the pit, and he's waving the Babe Ruth bar at him. You're not, you can have it in a minute. Just look ill or whatever it is. And I mean, some of the stuff he did, because it's jokes. It's social commentary. It's like Bill Hicks. I used to love Bill Hicks, and these guys. And I mean, credit to Chappelle. He's still pushing it. Because he doesn't give a fuck, and you need people like that. I mean, in the UK, we have people like Billy Connolly, who's very famous British comedian. He's not very well now, sadly, but he said, when they were saying you can't take the piss out of religion anymore, and he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? His whole act was taking the piss out of religion because, religion is a choice. And I'm not saying that you have to put people down or anything, but it's like it's kind of ridiculous. If I mean, the Catholic Church is ripe for taking the piss out of right now. The things that they're getting away with, and with the kids and stuff. I mean, it's terrible. Though. They should be taken down.
Dude, I've
You
said
know,
this for so long, and I said this actually to a rabbi who told me that I was wrong. And then later, like 3 weeks after we recorded the podcast, it was the first time ever that God, what is it called? What is the main? I can't believe I'm blanking on this right now. What is the one where the Pope is?
the Vatican.
The Vatican. Yeah, the Vatican got 3 priests got arrested at the Vatican 3 weeks after I was telling him this. And I was saying that there are two things the government has always been afraid of, and that's people and that is religion. They never really touch religion. That's like off ground territory because religion's older and it's more powerful than the government is. But they've been easily separating people for so long. When people get together is when the government gets scared. Lincoln said it best, like a house divided cannot stand. So you have a bunch of people attacking the government and starting to realize, like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Why are we over there? That doesn't make any sense. Then the government just does something like, oh, there's this media outbreak. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's this happening. And then they totally distract us and we're gone. Religion was just too powerful. They would never touch. And then after I said that to him, he goes, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're starting to see like churches being torn down and stuff." He goes, "I don't think that's true." Then 3 weeks later, priests got arrested at the Vatican. The Vatican's considered its own country. Like there
Yeah,
are
it is.
things
Yeah.
going on in religion. I'm not saying that religion's wrong and that's not the truth. I'm saying be open-minded, be understand that people are also involved in that and people are known to do some shady shit. It's the same thing with the government. People look at it and go, the government's corrupt, the government's this. The government is corrupt, but it's not the government. Red, white, and blue, it is true, but it's the fact is we have people in there that are corrupt. We have people that lost the thing to care about each other back in the days of Wall Street when people were stepping on each other's throats to get ahead. We have that mentality. We have this thing of if you have a business, I have to destroy your business to get mine up on the higher ladder. Let's just work together to support everybody and then everybody wins. I know that's a pain in the ass and it's a long way to get there and it's a hell of a lot more tasking, but it's so much more beneficial for us.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I'm not, knocking religion as a thing because I think that I was brought up as a Catholic. I didn't particularly enjoy it, and I didn't thankfully suffer any of those particular things. But my mother was a Catholic. All her friends were, and they were lovely people, and they had deep faith, and they were and they found it comforting, and they had a community with it, and that's fine. And same for like 99.9% of people in whatever religion they're in. It's fine, it's fantastic. But the problem is that absolute power corrupts absolutely. When you have people like the Vatican who have this amount of power, if you're talking about people that seem to be able to get away with the fact that there's a paedophile in a church and all they do is move him to a different parish as opposed to, I mean, that's a capital crime. And we'll just move him to another church and pretend it never happened. The guy is a paedophile. He's going to do it again there. Um, and the Pope's like, oh, perhaps we ought to do something. Perhaps you ought to do something. These people are criminals. What you want to do is drag them into court and put them in prison for their behaviour. But because it's the church, they're sort of mealy mouthed about it, and everyone's kind of, oh well, it's the Pope, it's okay. It's not okay. It really is not okay. And these people, will make other Catholics who are perfectly nice and good people will look bad because of this shit. Something has to be done. It's the same with Islam. I mean, most people involved in Islam, absolutely lovely people, fine. And then there's these few fucking assholes that are ruining it for everybody else. And
That's the same thing. It's like pooping in a public pool or something. Then everybody's like looking around like, who did it? Who did it? Everyone's getting blamed and getting terrorized. Then you hate public pools for the rest of your life. It's because there are some people that ruin it for everybody by displaying a bad thing of credit, such as like me cracking jokes in the middle of class and getting the whole classroom in trouble towards recess, that whole or you lose recess or something. It's like that happens because sometimes you get people that do something wrong like that, such as with the priests in the Catholic Church, everything, and it ruins the whole religion for everybody. Next thing you know, people are, but they've been doing this stuff for so long. And also it goes the opposite too. Like they've gotten away for it for so long because it is religion, it is priests, oh, it's Father McGirt, we don't talk about that. It's like, what are you talking about? Like there are people having a sense of title, whether you're a corporal, whether you're a president, whether you're whatever, that doesn't give you the right to still not abide by these things that we call human rights and laws.
yeah, I mean, if it was a teacher, you wouldn't even think twice.
But that works in
And
reverse too. A guy teacher could mess with a girl and it's a big problem, but a girl teacher messing with a guy, it's not really a problem. At least in the parents' eyes. Like the dad's like, fuck yeah, man, you hooked up with a 32-year-old girl. That's badass.
every
I
time
wish.
I see one of those stories, I try to be offended, and I'm like, you lucky little bastard.
Well, it's like at
Um,
my own school, we had a teacher that was texting some underage girls and trying to hook up with them. He got arrested, and like it was a big thing down here. And this was just like 3 or 4 years ago. And that guy's walking around town and he's shamed for the rest of his life like that for messing around. But I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, yeah, that's a proper act of what happened. But at the same time, it's like if it was reversed, the woman teacher wouldn't have gotten that much trouble. It's just the way we think as a society.
Totally. I mean, there were guys when I was at university who I think had hooked up with some of the lecturers, and they were just legends. And that was that was how it was. I mean, um, I, I don't think that I think that really in this day and age, that sort of relationship shouldn't happen regardless of gender. But yeah, I mean, and of course, you have guys like Weinstein and stuff who basically just as you start to get to a point where guys are being acceptable again, he comes out and does what he does, and we're all criminals again. I don't know. It is difficult because I'm all for feminism and empowering women. I just want everyone to have equal rights in everything. And it's a shame that there are still people that are like, well, it's this misogynist hierarchy, so all men have got this in them, and no, most 90, none of my friends are like
I
that.
have the simplest code in life, and it's from the Big Lebowski. It's I just let people do a thing. I just abide, man. I just do what I want to do. I want to literally be like, I don't care whatever you're interested in, whatever. I treat you as a person. That's all that really matters. But you made me think though about like the teachers, everything. What I would give to bang my 7th grade social studies teacher. Holy shit. I wouldn't have sued. I wouldn't have done anything. I would have been fighting for her, trying to get her out of court or whatever. Man, I'm telling you something. Holy shit. Miss Meddy.
It's also kind of, I find it kind of laughable the way that they pick on certain people that are obviously these weirdos. And yeah, everyone seems to have forgotten that Bill Wyman was shagging a 13-year-old when he was in the Rolling Stones. Jerry Lee Lewis was shagging his 12-year-old cousin or whatever it was. And but they're rock stars. That's fine.
Freaking Mick
You know,
Jagger's married to a 26-year-old, and you're just like, yeah, that dude's dope, that's awesome. It's like, what does fame let you get away with so much of this stuff? Like, I don't understand. Like, I guess your popularity, your title, whatever, people look up to you and adore you, they just overlook a bunch of things, but no one overlooked Bill Cosby's actions.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe because that was a
Well,
secret.
I mean, I'm not going to defend what Bill Cosby's done. I mean, he's terrible. But it should be one rule for all. Some people it just gets overlooked, and it is what it is. I mean, and I find it strange that society. It's the same with the Catholic Church. I mean, we can just kind of overlook that because they're priests. Mostly they're good. It's just this one thing. Um, yeah, right. It's quite a big thing, actually.
That's a big one.
Uh,
That's like cross out the whole front page. But that's why millennials now, like, I think religion is at an all-time low in the amount of people that believe. Mostly people don't have a religion or just don't believe in anything, especially with the millennials coming up, only because they don't know they weren't raised upon that. The older values back in the day where you went to church on Sunday, you did all these types of things. There are some people in today's society that do that, but a lot of people choose to pray at home, pray and take religion into their own hands, because it's just been, I guess, balled down and turned into this corrupt thing where you have to follow certain guidelines. It's like a cult type thing. It's like, what's happening? I have questions. You can't just kick me out because I'm asking a bunch of questions and you think that's scaring people. And it's like, reason why nobody chooses to believe anything anymore, because it's not the values of the kids anymore. It's not the values of the parents to teach their kids all about religion and worship God and all this stuff. It's like, no, try and find out what the fuck Fortnite is. What is this? Like, they're trying to adapt you to new situations now.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm all for. I mean, so I was brought up as a Catholic, but I'm about as lapsed as you can get now. And I have my own thoughts about the universe, whether there's some order to it. I don't think there's some guy with a beard up there, that's for sure. And I think people should take it into their own house and their own lives. And some religions are like that because if you're an insecure person and you need to be part of something and you need to sort of be on the team, you are ripe for manipulation. And I feel that when I was a kid, I mean, one of the things that came from being a Catholic was they make you feel guilty about every goddamn thing you do. Every time you do anything, it's a fucking sin. And I have, even though I've left Catholicism way behind me, I have this natural guilt about everything I do. Everything's my fault in my head. And it came from that. And it's poison. That is absolute poison. I don't want my children thinking that way. I've kept them well away from religion. I don't want them going around, beating themselves up, thinking that things are their fault because of some fucking book. And they can make their own mind up. If they want to become religious, I'm not going to stop them. Same way they want to be anything else.
Yeah, but like, I'll even mention it, that the whole fact is the amount of information that's accessible to kids now. You're seeing anxiety and depression pop up at 6, 4. Like, I mean, if you own a tablet, you're basically, your kid's gonna come across something. You can sit there and hold it for them and be like, "This is Minecraft. Stay on Minecraft." Next thing you know, they're on the internet. They get a notification, coronavirus. Next thing you know, that pops up into the kid's head. What the hell's that? Next thing you know, they're at school worrying about it. Next thing you know, it's drama, drama, drama. They're experiencing depression disorders and stuff. It's gone the complete wrong way. I try and stay off my phone when it comes to maybe just Instagram or something, just for the podcast, but everything else, like, leave it in my pocket, leave it in my car when I go out in the world. I want to experience the world again, and you don't want to get nostalgia off your fucking phone.
Yeah, I really believe that too. I mean, I'm
because I'm sort of doing this through the phone. I'm on the phone too much, but no, absolutely. I mean, I'm looking forward to the point where the kids who are like the cool kids are going to be the ones that are going offline. You know, like if you're not online, you're like the kids who used to smoke in the bike sheds when you know they were the cool kids, because there's going to come a point where that allure of, oh my god, he doesn't. There was a hilarious thing on Facebook a year or two ago where this woman tries to hook up with a guy and then he doesn't have any social media presence, and she's like, how does he eat a meal without photographing it? And then she couldn't find out anything about him. And I think that's great. It brings back the mystery, and I think people shouldn't be so reliable. And also, like when you go to a concert and everyone's fucking filming it on their phone, I'm like, oh, jeez, I can't even see the band because someone's got an iPad up in front of me.
It's like, yeah, when are you gonna watch that video, dude? Like, just look at the fucking person.
You're never going to watch that. I mean, I'll take one photograph if I get a nice shot of the band, and yeah, okay, there you go. I'm at a concert, and then I'll just watch it. I was at one last night, and I did that. And it is sad. I mean, that people are becoming so dependent, and I do worry that. I mean, millennials and well, younger than millennials, Gen X and Gen Z, or whatever the hell they are, not Gen X, Gen Z, and that lot, is that we talk about them being open, but I always used to say that the internet is the Horcrux of their soul. It's like this part of them is in the internet now. They're so frightened to do anything naughty or bad. We're not. I mean, I used to know a bunch of millennials, and when I'd go out and get drunk and I'd roll in the office hungover, and they would be frowning at me and like saying all this. I'm like, you're kids. Why are you saying this to me? When I was a kid, it was parents that were saying this to me.
Your biggest complaint as a kid should be, what cereal am I going to have this morning and what food am I going to have for dinner? For me, my childhood snack and my biggest problem of trying to get it was ham and not ham. It was 2 slices of bread with cheese on each slice, with pepperoni on top, microwaved for about 15 seconds. That's just the best thing in the world.
That's a good thing. Yeah, and that's your priorities. I mean, when I was a kid, I grew up in a forest, so I was climbing trees and throwing knives and shooting stuff and all those kind of things, and just kind of and going out and enjoying myself and having that freedom, which of course kids don't have now, because according to the papers, every third adult's a paedophile, so no kids can now go out on their own anymore. But
how do you judge every third adult's a pedophile?
I know, right? But it's kind of almost. Here's a story. A friend of mine he was driving along, and the car in front of him stopped, and it was I think they were parking by a park or something. And the guy got out from the front and went over to talk to his friends. And in the meantime, the back door opened. This little kid who got the door open had walked out into the middle of the road. So my friend immediately dives out of his car and runs over, grabs this kid, and he's in the process of putting him back into the car when this guy comes along. He has to spend about 5 minutes explaining to him that he's not a pedophile. He's just saving your son's life because you didn't properly lock the car. It's almost like it's now the default position. Anyone goes near my children, they're probably a paedophile. Guilty until proven innocent, and it comes from the media.
It's
and
the
I
same
think
thing.
that
Hitchhikers are illegal too. Did you know that? Down here
are they really?
in my state, they're illegal. I tried to hitchhike because my car broke down and I was walking. A state trooper just passed me, didn't pick me up. This is at 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I get it, but like I've seen people walk home and I'll be like, "Hey, I see you at Food Line. Why don't you just hop in? I'll take you home." They look at you like, "Are you going to kill me?" It's like, no, there's no way we're both going to be psycho killers, right? Like
What's
it's
the chances?
it's like there's this thing about like, yo, I'm iffy. I've heard too many stories. I've heard too many things. Like, no, I'm trying to be a nice guy. It's fucking raining out. Let me take you home. And I've taken them home, and I still see them today. Like, thank you so much. It was awesome. And like I've walked home and nobody's helped me. I've sat there, thumb up. I'm not a creepy looking guy. I'm a young kid. I'm wearing a hoodie or something with my just like, please, anybody. I'm literally a mile away. If someone can just help me out, I've walked so long. I'm still gonna reach out. People just pass. Nobody cares. Everybody's got their own little thing in their head. Everybody's got this own little journey, and nobody cares about anybody else.
It's true. It's true. And all this sort of deep suspicion that's being bred into us. We're ending up like Eastern Europe in sort of the 1960s, where every 10th person's a spy or something. This sort of idea, everyone thinks the worst about everything, because, as I say, because this is the thing that makes life exciting. If you think the best about everything, life's kind of dull. But of course, that's it, but also infinitely better. um, but we do have this strange idea that everybody's. But I mean, when I was a kid, I mean, I had so much freedom to do whatever I wanted, and if someone stopped and asked me directions, I would just be polite. Would be a bit wary of strangers, obviously, but
If you had Snickers,
but
I was getting in the van. I'm sorry, that's just happening.
yeah, I mean, and totally, and well,
That's the
the,
price you
the,
pay for chocolate. I'm sorry.
exactly, it's a fair trade. No, I mean, but that's the thing. It's you there are no more bad people now than there were then, but the world seems to think that there are, because culture's taking it that way. I mean, it makes me laugh. I said I put it in this blog the other day. I was having a right go at the cancel culture. That people, there was this. I don't know if you saw, there was a award ceremony in America or the UK or somewhere, and the young rapper started flirting with the girl when he was getting his award, and next thing it turns into a riot, and everyone's having a go at this guy. I thought, he's just a young guy. He's just shooting his mouth off. He's a 22-year-old rapper. He's just having a good time. He doesn't. She wasn't worried about it.
It's
He's
that
a
ego,
music.
man.
Jump on it. Yeah,
It's
jump
it's
on
that
it.
it's that amazing ego of back in the day when we had those cigarettes, or not cigarettes. It was the candy chalk that looked like cigarettes. You would put them. I don't know
Yeah,
if you had
yeah,
those, but you would
yeah,
put
yeah,
one in your mouth and act like you're smoking a cigarette like an adult. Dude, if that happened now, you know how many people would be taking pictures? That would be all over the news. These kids are gonna look at today's youth, gonna turn into smokers. It's like back in the day, people would just walk past you and not even say a word. They're like, "Oh, you're just being a kid." Like we didn't even know
yeah.
what it meant.
Well, I mean, that's what kids do. We ape adults. I mean, who else are our role models? Well, of course, these kids now, they just tell adults that they're all wrong because they all know better than us, apparently. But yeah, I mean, I do think that the funniest thing about these people is that they'll have a go at you and they'll call you out on things which used to just be normal human behavior and now unacceptable. And then they'll go home and they'll fucking put their Xbox on and they'll play some game like Grand Theft Auto where they can shoot a hooker in the head and put her in the trunk of the car, and that's fine because it's just a game. So is this what's happening now? Is that instead of like living our real lives and our real fantasies, we just live them through computer games, and then we go out into the real world with just these fucking drones that don't say anything that we feel. Maybe that's maybe that's the future. I
It's
can't wait.
autopilot, man. It's gonna end up being like Wall-E, where everybody's sitting on a floating bed. If you don't have to move, why do it, right?
I think that film is so far ahead of its time. Every time I see that scene with those guys and the bones don't even touch, that's what's going to happen. We're just going to turn into these, and as like Joe Rogan's always saying, we're going to have devices inside us and we're going to turn into cyborgs, and so that's the future.
I
Right? I
always
can't
talk
wait.
about it with the gene chip because they're talking about putting a chip into the back of your head where you have like the internet on your brain. And I said, I see the benefit in that, like so many amazing things, such as like getting Google Translate, being able to understand languages and all this information on your brain, being able to look up articles and information, being able to have it at your fingertips. But then I know people, and I know that there's going to be people out there that are going to be sitting in the middle of class when they're supposed to be paying attention. They're going to be looking up the whole internet of porn onto their brain, like just sitting there like, oh, look at this. I'm supposed to be reading about Edgar Allan Poe, but now I'm watching porn. It's like, okay, all right. I know how people are. We take the best thing that could help out our society in a beneficial way, and we like to run the complete opposite way with it. It's like someone gives you a bunch of sticks to build a fort, and you're like, I'm just going to start throwing it against the wall. It's like, what the hell?
Well, also, I just have this vision that you'd be having like a beautiful dream, and then suddenly there's a fucking commercial break in the middle of it.
Dude, if they could do
you
that to your dreams, that would suck. Just start implant. Maybe that's what Coke does, because every time somebody wakes up, they're like, I haven't seen a Coke advertisement on TV in a while, but I keep dreaming about it.
Well, I mean, it's the same as that thing, you're sitting having a conversation, and suddenly what you're talking about pops up on Facebook. I mean, and they had to admit it in the end, didn't they? And it's only the next step. I mean, if you had the internet in your head, the internet is full of complete, I mean, subliminal or blatant advertising, and that would be inside your head. People would own you, because you wouldn't know whether you thought it or whether someone told you it.
Well,
That
someone's
would be
got to stop
terrifying.
advertising Honey Smacks into my head, because that's all I keep thinking about and keep dreaming about. It's getting bad, man. It's getting bad. I had to create my own cereal to go rival Kellogg's because they denied my sponsorship for my podcast. They're like, I love your work, but sorry, at this time we can't accept the sponsor for your podcast. I was like, well, you know what? I'm going against you now. I'm creating a cereal.
Absolutely. So you're not on the carnivorous diet or the keto diet, or I
I'm
worry about
on whatever
America.
looks good is good, and I'm gonna eat it. Like I was looking through your Instagram on the bite size review and everything, and I'm like, this is a bunch of amazing mouth pleasure foods. Like, all right, if I had to ask you, what is your death row meal? Like, what's one if you were gonna get sentenced to death? What would be the things you would ask for as your last meal?
Oh God, that's a good one. Well, my favorite meal, if it's done properly, is something like a big roast dinner, like a sort of roast lamb or something like that, cooked with its pink, with all the vegetables and everything. And then my favorite pudding in the world, I don't know if you have it in the States, is something called bread and butter pudding,
Oh yeah, we do.
which is which is just like bread with custard and vanilla and great things in it. And I would have that, and I'd probably, if I was going to be going to like the electric chair, I'd probably have like about 3 bottles of scotch, so I didn't give a shit. But yeah, that's what I mean. I love. I would make. We went and did a vegan review recently, and actually the food was really good. I was so impressed with it. But I'd find it so hard to be a vegetarian because I just love meat. I love the texture of it,
I love eggs, man.
eggs. Yeah, yeah.
I love my eggs, and I'm going to ask you this question because I've asked everybody on the podcast so far about this question. What do? You like ketchup on your eggs?
Do I like ketchup on my eggs?
Yes.
If I'm having something like scrambled eggs on toast, I probably have ketchup with that. And if I'm having a
Oh
fried breakfast
God.
if I'm well, because I have it on the side. If I'm having a fried breakfast, I'll have ketchup with the sausages and the bacon, and the egg will invariably get involved. But I would normally, the way I tend to eat eggs these days, I learned this in Singapore, is I soft boil them, and then I put them all into a bowl, and then you put soy sauce with it, and then you have that. Then because the salt and the egg goes really well.
Yeah,
So
that's
I'm a
the
big
same
fan of
thing
it.
with peanut butter. If you take peanut butter and I make egg whites turn to a little omelet and I put it in a bowl and mix it together, dude, I'm telling you,
With
peanut butter and
with peanut
eggs
butter.
is amazing. It's the sweet and I don't know the egg, like it just works together. But there can't be a yolk in there. You have to make sure
Right.
it's like scrambled eggs or something with no yolk. But
So
then
you put a bunch of egg whites with some peanut butter, and you mix it together, and then you just throw it in a pan.
well, what you do is you take the egg whites and you cook the egg whites first. So you have the egg, you have the whatever you're going to eat, the omelet or whatever, and then you have a bowl of peanut butter and you just throw the egg on top of that, and then you just mix the two together. The peanut butter gets wrapped around the egg and it turns into something amazing. And some baker woman said, "Yeah, that's a good idea, and you can even salt the peanut butter to make like a salted peanut butter to it, and it apparently tastes really really good." I would suggest
Whoa.
probably black pepper, but I mean, that there's the food combinations are crazy. Now, if I had to ask you with a nostalgia meal, what is your nostalgia meal?
My nostalgia meal. Oh my
For
goodness.
me, like I said, it's that cheese sandwich, that pepperoni and cheese in the microwave. That would take me back, or taquitos from like the Jose Olays, the ones you see in the grocery store. Yeah, that's my childhood.
I think my mother was a good cook. I was very lucky in that respect. And whenever I do something like, if let's say I'm cooking myself, actually one thing that is a nostalgia, because we didn't have a lot of money when we were growing up, and so and I still used to cook this with my kids sometimes. It's just what I call cupboard food basically, and I basically got everything I could find, vegetables, baked beans, whatever it was, and just put it on a pan, boil it up, put some chili on it or whatever to give it a bit of flavor, and boil some rice, and then you mix the whole thing together, and you throw. She always used to put sultanas in with it, like raisins, and so it gives it like a sweetness in with it as well. And it's basically just like a load of rice, generally just rice and vegetables together. Sometimes you might put some sausages or whatever you've got around, and it's just this comfort food. And my mother used to make it because she just she didn't have a lot of money. When I make it for my kids, and I love to carry that tradition on, and they actually really enjoy it, and it's healthy as well. So that takes, whenever I cook it, I kind of think about my mother, and it's definitely a piece of my childhood that I've been able to bring to my kids, which is cool.
Yeah, I love the nostalgia you can get from food. I remember, like, if I was really gonna choose my death row meal, like, I'd sit there and I'd tell you, like, a nice crisp biscuit with like some scalloped potatoes, or maybe that casserole you get on Thanksgiving with the marshmallow in it. Like, that would be cool. But I know what would really take me back is from all the times I ate Ben and Jerry's fish food ice cream when I was a kid. You put
That's
that
good.
you put that beside me, put a nice peanut butter and fluff sandwich toasted, bro, like there you go. Like I was watching a video of like this guy recording everybody's last meals that they were getting throughout history. People were going like, I want 50 pizzas and all this type of stuff. And then there's like the very humbled people like, I just want a nice banana pudding with a cider. And I'm like, you can get whatever you want. Wouldn't you just want to take a bite from everything? And the fact that people were still like able to do that to give people their last meals, even though they ended up having to stop it in some states because some people were doing some really crazy shit. They're like, we got you this pizza, but it's not from Domino's. And the guy's like, then I don't want it. And then just refused to eat it. I was like, all right. That's when if I was the warden or something, I'd be like, we're never doing this again. This selfish son of a bitch.
Yeah, the guy's a murderer. Just fucking eat it or don't. Yeah, I mean,
You're gonna eat Little Caesars and you're gonna like it.
exactly. And you're just going to think about that person you killed with every mouthful. Yeah, motherfucker.
Hot and ready,
Um,
bitch.
yeah, and guess what? It's the vegetarian one as well.
Oh, not the meat
yeah.
lovers. Now you're really killing me. Why don't you just stick the needle in me now? I don't even care.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about the death penalty? I mean, it's kind of a thing still over there, isn't it?
I honestly, I don't think it's the right way. What I actually suggested through a podcast is if you gave somebody a psychedelic mushroom, if they were on death row, let them let them feel that, let them see that change, because they've always brought a different perspective into people's eyes and more humbleness towards people. Or make them take salvia, like that.
What's that?
Okay, it's this drug that, like, when you take it, basically a minute feels like 80 years. Like, I listened to my cousin talk about taking it and then go downstairs to his fridge to drink carrot juice. And before the juice touched his lips, he lived the whole life of the carrot that was in the juice, from literally the bird shit flying into the dirt, from a seed growing. And the craziest one I can mention to people to listen to this, it's on Ryan Sickler's podcast. Steve Cantwell has an experience on salvia where he takes it. He passed out for a minute in real time, but he lived 8 years as another person in Texas. Literally, it's like when your brain goes into a coma and you wonder what those people are thinking about, like how they create like a false scenario to make you, like, brace you for whatever. Like, if you ever seen My Name is Earl, the guy gets hit by a car, and then in his
Yeah.
mind, when he was in a coma, he was in a TV show. This guy, Steve Cantwell, lived 8 years in Texas under a whole nother person's life. And like his brain was tricking him, like all this type of stuff, like everything. And he was like worked at an apple orchard, and he was so descriptive for 2 hours. You hear this guy, I'll point you to this podcast. He explains it in such detail where it makes you feel like he actually lived it. Then he woke up to his wife hugging him on the floor. Like, that type of drug, you give someone that, like, death row, in a minute they live a whole nother life and a whole different experience. They're going to have a different perception, and maybe death row, that's it. Just give them that, and then maybe they don't want death. Maybe they'll change their ways.
God, that's terrifying. That reminds me of that drug they had in that Judge Dredd movie where everything just slows down.
That's literally what it is, except you go into like an alternate, like, dream or whatever, that you're gone forever basically, and then you get back and it's only been a minute in real time. Like, the
Seems
dude,
quite attractive though, doesn't it? Because it
yeah,
could be kind of fun.
the dude literally said, Steve Cantwell was like, I lost, I thought I had 4 kids in my real life, and then this dream convinced me I didn't have any kids. And then I come back to real life and I was so happy because I had my kids. And then he was like, it was so hard to tell which was the real dream or which was my real life. Like, he ended up, your brain tricks you into believing it. So it's like when your brain gets into a critical state, it's trying to save you.
But that's when you start thinking this is a fucking simulation, right?
That's Dude, I'm pointing you to this episode, but I want to wrap it up, but I really want to give you a minute here to kind of plug your content too. I want people to find your Instagram. I want people to find any of your videos where you can show them where they're at.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, so the Instagram is called the Bite Size Review, and we're based in London, and our website is thebitesizereview.com. And basically, we just do very, very fast food reviews, and with a bit of irreverent humor and a good laugh. We talk about how fun the place is. We talk about, we have a good laugh together, and then the food is part of it, but it's not everything. And we're out and about now. Each film is about 2.5 minutes, so it's quick, easy, digestible content. And you just watch it on the train or something, and it'll give you a good sense of what that restaurant's like. Just not just the food; it'll tell you what the place is like, the atmosphere, and everything else. So it's a bit more information. And yeah, we try and have a laugh too. It's genuine. The jokes aren't. There's no scripting. It's all what happens on the day, and then we just cut out the best bits. And yeah, and we're just looking for more and more places to do. And so anybody knows anybody that wants, we're probably in the London area at the moment, then by all means we'll come along and shoot it. It's free at the moment. And so yeah, and we're really enjoying it. It's great fun.
Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.